some other time. This is a chocolate. I bring the chocolate from France. It's a minimum 70% cocoa. You have to have minimum 75% cocoa. And I tell you how I learned about this. Learned it from the Indians. And which Indians? The Kuna Indians of Panama. When I was a medical student, I went 5 times to Kuna Indians, and they're the Kuna. I measured the blood pressure in hundreds and hundreds of people. One thing we noticed was that the normal blood pressure is 110/70. As long as they live in their country, in their area, they don't get high blood pressure. But they move to Panama City, the blood pressure goes up. We said, oh, there were many, many theories. Only last year they figured it out that Kunas living in the Kuna Islands drink up to 5 drinks of chocolate, pure chocolate. Okay, so behavioral change, you cannot expect that to happen in vacuum outside a culture. It's foolish to come to the Indians and say, decrease your calories and fat and increase your activity, fruits and veggies and all that. It has to be in the context of a culture. But most of our medical advice is as if there is no culture, that this person is existing in a vacuum, as if he has no culture, whether you're white, Mexican, black, or Indian. And you know that I have some news for you, and you can see that if you look at the history of the food pyramid, they were going in the right direction about the food pyramid, but the meat lobby, meat producers, forced the government to change saying that it used to say decrease consumption of meat. Now it says have 2 or 3 servings. And meat, I'll give you in a minute, is the largest producer of green gas and damage to the environment. But just released, I'll show you in a minute. Regarding the diet, I'm a bit of a foodie, so regarding the diet, it's very, very complex. Why we eat, what we eat, when we eat, with whom. I always say, eat together. You can eat anything you want, but eat with friends. You know, just don't make something quickly and eat it. If you're eating with friends, eating and chatting like we do in Paris, 1 or 2 hours for lunch, you can eat anything you want. But because it's very, very complex, and it's not about just carbohydrates. And also, this is that, they've just published this study saying that, if you've had a bad experience as a child, you later on tend to become fatter and get type 2 diabetes. This study was done among the Northern Plains Indians. So that you have to think, Michelle and Deb knows that, when we check these kids year after year, if they have put on inordinate amount of weight, we know that there has been some physical, emotional, sexual trauma. Wonderful country, 32 billion on snacks and 32 billion on getting thin. Wonderful. Make money while making you sick, make money making you well. This is the item from, this is from 7th of September. And so 2 days ago, the United Nations top climate scientists said that people should consider eating less meat because it's 18% of the greenhouse gas emissions are from making meat. I mean, cutting forests down to have, like in Brazil, making cattle and etc. And I don't know, it's something to be proud of or not, 3 of the 4 great polluters are in Nebraska. IBP, Tyson, Conagra. And Tyson is big in Australia as well. Okay, quickly, now that I met this doctor from India, who has the highest incidence of cardiovascular disease in the world? What comes to mind? Who? Which people? People say, white people from America, Connecticut. No. Indians who have migrated to the United States. Indian people from India who migrate to the United States have the highest rate of heart disease. And they would say, oh, this is because of their diet. As we know, as we briefly talked about, they're very faithful to their diet. But I think the stress changing, and more importantly, we have had the Jewish community of Miami had people coming and saying that, how is that the Jewish people are able to continue their culture from father to, as I said, because the East Indians were finding it very difficult to transfer their culture to the boys and girls born in the United States. There's a good movie called Namesake by Miranaya, very nice movie. If you can see the conflict faced by young East Indians born in this country who are faced with the culture and inability to adapt. I think it's a stress. And in India, India of 20 years ago and India of now has no resemblance. India has changed so dramatically. With it, the stress has gone up. India has become the capital of diabetes in the world and capital of cardiovascular disease. I will just 1 minute go through that. I don't have to worry about it. It's various chemicals, autism, attention deficit disorders, behavioral problem, plastics, endocrine disrupting chemicals, thyroid problem, all have what the environment has given us. And we know people who move out to new settlements which were farmland before tend to get thyroid problems because of the remnants of pesticide. The chemical used to make the tomatoes red has perchlorate in it. Organic diets, they found out that they put kids on organic diet and their attention deficit disorder considerably decreased, because you can decrease many of these chemicals with organic diet. Sexual precocity. When I was a medical student, if a 10-year-old girl spouted breast, it was sexually abnormal. I've noticed that each year it's becoming less and less. An American Pediatric Association says 7-year-old white girls and 6-year-old black girls is the norm now. So something has happened in this very short period of time. And nobody's saying why this is happening. Definitely, it has to relate with chemicals. Don't eat food and hot food in plastic containers, and make your home plastic free. That'll be very, very helpful. Buy local market, and avoid palm oil, please, because palm oil is really cutting down the cost of Borneo and Indonesia. Avoid product. I tell the people who read labels, I said 2 things you avoid: high fructose corn syrup and hydrogenated oil. You'll be okay. It's a good idea to eat naturally. Traditional medicine, like I said, like the OTs, the philosophy of OTs saying the patient-oriented care. Patient is at the center. At our clinic in Macy, we like to think the patient is the center, not us. Healing is what is emphasized because we are not interested in curing. Not because we know that without the healing aspect, curing doesn't take place. Western medicine emphasizes curing. If you were having right now a heart attack, Western medicine is fantastic. They'll take care of you. But if you're having chronic problems like rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, etc., you better find another way. Complementary medicine is much more holistic. And you know that up to 80% of the American people use some form of complementary medicine. It is not in the data because it's not reimbursed, so it's not in the data. But majority of the Americans do use some form of complementary medicine. Very quickly, in the 1 minute, I'm going to go through food in various countries. And you can see that each slide shows what that country person eats in 1 week. The Japanese food is, on an everyday basis, Japanese food is the healthiest. And it has nothing to do with how much you spend. The Germans, French spend much more money per week on food. And Americans, middle, because America is between 300 and 150.